a time when every dollar counts, Capital Ford in Santa Fe is stepping up and offering employee pricing for everyone. Yes, employee pricing for everyone is now available on new Fords. You pay what Ford employees pay. Employee pricing means save up to $9,000 off MSRP on a new 25 Ford F-150, or save up to $4,800 off, plus 3.9% APR on a new 24 Ford Bronco. From America, for America. We're Capital Ford in Santa Fe.
Ladies and gentlemen, from La Casa de los Lobos, the Pit, here at the University of New Mexico, let's get ready to rumble!
Hitting you with the triple hey there. How's everybody doing? My name is Ryan Tamori. This is another episode of the Pit Press Live. A lot to get to today. Very amped up for this show. Very excited. I'll make it about myself. One of my favorite coaches to cover at my heyday at the Daily Lobo. One Ray Birmingham at 8:15 today. JJ Buck, voice of the women's basketball team, at 9 o'clock. Also on the opening drive with Jeff Symbieta on 6:10 a.m. The Sports Animal. Not much. I didn't do any justice to Ray Birmingham. Ray J. Birmingham. His middle name is not Jay. Ray Birmingham, former UNM baseball coach. Excited to have him in about 13 minutes. We'll start here. We've been doing this 2.5 years. We haven't had many hiccups. I'd say we've had a few. I mean, what does Jeff Goldblum say in Jurassic Park? Or tells John Hammond, except when Pirates of the Caribbean breaks down, the pirates don't break loose and eat the guests. Last Thursday night, I apologize. It was a little bit of a mix up. Not how I want to do things around here. Not how we normally do. Just a weird day. And, again, I have a day job, got busy, but anyway, a few house cleaning things. And I'm sure you're aware of what we're doing tomorrow night, but let me get rid of this. Pit Press Plus. Do you think you know Lobo Athletics? Think again. The Pit Press Plus, your all-access pass to the heart and hustle of the University of New Mexico Athletic Department. With a monthly or yearly subscription, you'll unlock, with monthly or yearly subscription, you'll unlock behind the scenes stories you won't hear anywhere else. So think monthly, $2 yearly is $25 coming soon. We will have more content behind that wall, kind of the dog days of summer. Tentatively, Greg Archuleta, former beat writer for the Albuquerque Journal. Still talking to him. Sounds like it's a go. He will be joining us and he will be writing for the website. Looking forward to that. More like a columnist, opinionated. We still have some kinks to work out. Again, he's got a day job. He's busy. We've gotten that ball going. But whether you're a diehard fan, a sports junkie, or just here for spicy locker room gossip, the Pit Press Plus has something for you. Subscribe today. Support local sports journalism. I'm even going to say that about the Albuquerque Journal. And remember, real Lobos don't settle for the sidelines. $2 a month, $25 for the entire year. All Lobo, no filter. And then the Together We Howl series. We are excited to announce a collaboration with 505 Sports Venture Foundation. Again, it's called Together We Howl. It's a virtual series lineup of live stream and podcasts centered around the UNM athletic department. It will take place on Wednesdays over the summer, this summer, 2025. And it starts tomorrow at 6 p.m. The series will feature interviews with coaches and student athletes, highlight community involvement, and provide viewers, listeners, an inside look at who they are on and off the field, as well as why NIL is a central part of their experience. First guest tomorrow night, Lobo football general manager Bo Davidson. We've already had him on. Looking forward to the conversation. Feel free to chime in. It will be on YouTube, X, Facebook. Please provide questions for Bo. This is meant for Lobo fan, Lobo Nation. Topics with Bo will revolve around football scouting and the importance of name, image, and likeness, otherwise known as NIL. We'll keep you updated on future shows over the summer on our social media channels, as well as I think the 505 Sports Venture Foundation channels. Stronger Together, Louder Forever is the hashtag, or excuse me, slogan. Anything else that I got to get to before that? Oh yeah, hey, stay in the loop with Lobo Sports. Follow the Pit Press for exclusive updates, interviews, and behind-the-scenes content. Find us on Instagram, X, Pit Press NM, and we're now on TikTok. Look at us getting younger. That'll be Ed's forte at the Pit Press. I'm going to start here because I'm sure I got to get it out of the way. And let me play it. Too loud. The Knicks. I will start there. Fix that. Remove that. Don't want to see my ugly mug. I was pretty impressed with the the whole song didn't play. There it is. I can tell you where I was on May 16th, 1999. I was getting ready in my parents' bedroom, and I remember in their TV on that, I think Sunday morning or Saturday morning, The Runner by Allen Houston. I can also tell you where I was on June 22nd, 1994 in South River, New Jersey with my grandfather, step-grandfather, Otto Blaschka. John Starks goes 2 of 18, and the Rockets win the 1994 NBA Finals. Iman Shumpert with the dunk in 2013. And it's been a long 25 years. So I was very happy. And for everybody giving me shit, with the Mets in October, they beat Philly to get to the NLCS. Couldn't have asked for more when there were no expectations. Knicks team, yes. They beat Boston to get to Indiana. I know, there's some hatred towards Indiana if you're a Knicks fan, but I couldn't have asked for more. And I'm stealing what Jim Rome said today because he couldn't have said it any better. The Knicks were relevant again. And as obnoxious as those fans might be on 7th and 8th Avenue, it was fun to see. It's where I grew up. Not that I completely love the NBA. I am enthralled with this finals. I think it will be very cool because it's not the same old teams. I'm a big baseball guy. You can say the same thing about that. No Cavs, even though it's not the Cavs of 10 years ago. No Warriors, thank God. Do I still have that soundbite up?
Oh, thank God.
Yeah, no Warriors. No Lakers, no Celtics. Thunder, obviously, minus 750 to win the series. I can't see why the Pacers can't do it. Huge underdogs, but yeah, I'm cool. The NBA, I think I've had my ups and downs with it. I think it's a crap product, and I'm not Italian, but to quote Al Pacino in The Godfather Part 3 with the NBA and what the Knicks just did to get to Game 6 of the 2025 Eastern Conference Finals.
Just when I thought I was out, they pulled me back in.
Thank you, NBA. Now to Lobo stuff. Again, Ray Birmingham in about 5 minutes. Something I thought is very cool. I grew up more before I ended up in at the Daily Lobo. I was a Lobo, probably a bigger Lobo football fan than basketball fan, which is the weird thing in this town. Dennis Franchione, former Lobo coach from 1992 to 1997, is now nominated for the National Football Foundation 2026 College Football Hall of Fame. Kudos. I think Lobo fans, if you're of a certain age, can remember the 1997 season where the Lobos went 9-4, 6-2, won the Mountain Division before they sadly got shellacked by Colorado State in the WAC championship game. Graham Lee, Pascal Valls, Winslow Oliver, I believe. They averaged 32.5 points a game. And I find this, I wanted to play this clip, and I thank Tilly Vic 14 on YouTube, and I hope we don't get stricken. I think what Dennis Franchione meant to UNM football and kind of changing the tune and setting up for what Rocky did. I found this today, and I thought it was very fascinating. This is after they beat BYU on November 15, 1997, and it snowed the night before. So the ESPN2 broadcast, which was very cool, before it cut to Arkansas and Tennessee with Peyton Manning at Tennessee. This is something you don't hear from a UNM football coach, and I wanted to play this after they beat BYU, which I thought was very, very cool. And just listen to what he has to say.
Seconds remain here in Albuquerque.
Expected to win! Act like we expected to win!
When's the last time you heard a UNM football coach say that? Again, that was the 1997 season. And I'm going to reach out to Ray Birmingham. He just texted me. Going to take a quick commercial break. My name's Ryan Tamori. This is the Pit Press Live. We'll be right back, hopefully, with former UNM baseball coach Ray Birmingham. Give me one moment. All right, sorry about that. Welcome back to the show. My name's Ryan Tamori, and I'm going to bring in our next guest. All right, our next guest is New Mexico's winningest baseball coach, having led the Lobos from 2008 to 2021, where he won Mountain West titles and developed over 150 professional players. He took UNM to the NCAA tournament, not once, not twice, not 3 times, 4 times, 2011, 2012, 2013, and 2016. Before his time at UNM, he won a national championship at New Mexico Junior College in 2005. He's been inducted into multiple Hall of Fames. He retired in 2021, but he still remains influential in baseball and education. You probably see him around every UNM athletic events, and I'm going to be selfish here because you were one of my favorite coaches to cover 15, 16 years ago, former UNM baseball coach Ray Birmingham. Coach, how are you tonight?
Cowboy, good to see you.
How you doing?
Fantastic. I played golf today, enjoyed it. Just wonderful, wonderful golf courses in Albuquerque.
Glad to hear that. Guess the platform we're using is having swapping streams, so I'm sorry you're going to have to look at my ugly mug. Let's see if I can fix that. There we go. Okay, perfect. Coach, I'll start here. Well, how's your golf game? How's that?
You know, it can I say sucked?
I used to tell people when people would ask me what my handicap is, I used to tell them it was the golf course.
I swung it like a fungo bat for a long time, and I've got it fixed now. I'm about 84, 85.
That's better than me. I haven't played in a couple of years. I actually used to play with Joe Diaz, the weatherman. So now that he's retired, I can get him out on the course. I'll start. Go ahead.
I love Joe. I'm so proud of him. I almost teared up on his last broadcast.
He's a great guy, and I know Diane, his wife. They're good people. So yeah, it's a sad day. I got to know him at my time at KOAT, and I'm hoping to have him on next week. So we will see. He said he didn't know much about sports, and I was like, "Well, I'm not going to have you on to talk sports. I'm going to have you talk on him to talk about your career." Speaking of career, I'm going to transition there. How has your life changed since retiring in 2021, and what are you focused on now?
Well, for a little while, it got a little quiet, and when you retire, you have to reinvent yourself, and everybody that goes through retirement knows that. So I did some research, and they said, community, be involved in the community in some community development, community support fashion. So I jumped on with ALS and Children's Cancer Fund of New Mexico, and then the governor called me and asked me to be a regent, and then I opened an LLC. I helped UNM raise money for different things, athletic department, and then I had to take my wife on multiple vacations because she was a baseball widow. Just got back from Italy.
How was Italy?
Well, I was hoping Sophia Loren's grandchildren or somebody would be on the beach, but they weren't. It was beautiful. It was beautiful, 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 beautiful. We went the Amalfi Coast.
No, that sounds amazing. I like the fact that you were looking to reinvent yourself, and I don't know if it matters what age you're at, but I don't know, what does that word mean to you?
Well, it means that you keep doing what you did, because I did community support when I was coaching, and I thought it was a big deal. Our players had to go to help with children's cancer and the hospital, and find causes greater than yourself. So I'm the old school coach that taught them how to change a tire, taught them how to jump her off a car, how you change your oil, all those things, how you keep a checkbook, how do you treat people on the road. We wore suit and ties on the road. They complained about that, but they thanked me later. I made them get haircuts, all those things. And I even had 3 a.m. Marine days, which you can't do anymore. So I didn't fit anymore, so I needed to retire.
If we would have known about 3 a.m. Marine days, we definitely would have written a story about that, Isaac and I. I'm just throwing that out there to you. Can you elaborate on that now or no? You plead the fifth.
Yeah. So, college athletics used to be about, and to me, I was helping young men grow up to be good men and educated men, so they could leave, graduate, and go on and take a job. If they got drafted, great, but that wasn't the goal. Goal was education and better people, and we weren't paying them. They were coming to get something that they needed, and and learn how to play baseball at championship level. So if say Bobby missed class on Monday and another guy didn't turn his homework in on Tuesday, and I always had the number 5. When it got to 5 of those things, then I would tell them, have your phones ready, because don't turn them off, because I may call you tonight and we're going to go exercise. And they're going, who did what? Who did what? And then 3 a.m. came, and it was alert. And I'll see you, T-shirts, tennis shoes, and shorts, indoor football facility in Erlacher built. We got it on for 2 hours.
I don't envy those people. That sounds rough. I guess
hard.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Coach.
It was hard. It was hard, but it made men out of them. Some of them cried. Some of them got scared. Some of them threw up. But they started policing themselves. And then when you have a team that polices themselves, you got something going on.
I guess that's a good segue to my next question. What's your coaching philosophy, and how did it evolve over your career?
I got softer as time went on. I was, because I got older, and the culture of the world got softer, and you get in trouble. They question everything if you push a kid. So I was a pusher. I was demanding. I'd call you out, and those days are gone.
No, hear you there. I like that you said you got softer over time. I don't know how many people I've heard say that, and I'm probably true. Or I don't know. I'm probably gotten inverse. I was nicer when I was younger, and now I'm not even 40 yet, but I'm turning a grumpy old man. What were and Ed Nunez will be joining us, and we always make the age joke. So, what were some of your biggest challenges you faced as a coach? And what were some moments that stand out to you as your greatest triumphs?
Well, as a coach, I always took, it always felt like I went to College of the Southwest. First college career was a little bitty school in Hobbs, New Mexico. It was NAIA, and they didn't have anything. They had remnants of a field that got hit by a tornado, and it was all tore up, and they didn't have any money. They were about to close the school. It was rough. They didn't have transportation. So all those things, building a field, raising money, driving a bus, getting a bus, I had to buy a bus and raise the money for a bus. And then I did the same thing at New Mexico Junior College. They didn't have a field. I had to build a field, coach a team, recruit a team. And I coached by myself for the first 7 years. And then when I came to UNM, no offense, but their facility was less than desirable. And they didn't have a locker room. So, you just try to make it better than it was. And it takes every day. Every day it's a fundraising. It's building a facility. It's recruiting a kid. It's coaching a kid. It's managing equipment, it's travel, it's everything. We didn't even have an ops guy. I was the ops guy. I was a head coach and the ops guy and the secretary. That didn't look good in a dress.
I don't know if I want to picture you in a dress.
Oh, you don't.
Yeah. I'm treading lightly here because I remember, you guys played at Isotopes Park. I think I remember 2010, 2011, and then I was no longer at the paper. I graduated. I think, and I'm not trying to put you on the spot, I think there was some good and bad there, but you had that facility, and I thought it was the coolest thing that the college team was playing in that AAA park. I got East Coast roots. Every time I'm back east, I'm like, one of the few things, and I'm guilty of it. When I praise Albuquerque, at least sports wise, I'm like, it's got a great AAA ballpark. I've always said that. But I'll ask you this: how did you use playing at Isotopes Park to your advantage during those years?
That was an attraction we tried to use, um, and I appreciate John Traub being gracious, but it just didn't fit. It just didn't fit. It was clashing, and we needed to have our own place because I remember my second year, '09, we're playing TCU, and it was down to one game, and we're at home plate, and the groundskeeper comes up and says, "This game's going to be over at this time because the team needs to have BP before their game tonight," and that can't happen. That can't happen. So that's the day that I decided that we needed to get our own facility, and I had to work really hard to get it. And it was a roller coaster because if you remember, I had $4 million, almost $4 million from Governor Richardson. Then he transitioned out and he put the money in, and the board accepted the naming rights, which was a gentleman that was close to Bill Richardson. And the next governor came in and nixed it, took away $4 million.
That's rough.
It happened a lot. A lot of that. There were a lot of mountains to climb. A lot.
What do you think of Santa Ana Star Field? I think it. I mean, just your honest. I guess just your honest opinion. It's nice that you guys have your own place. You have that new facility out, and I forgot what it's called, out in right field. And it says the road. I love that it says the road to Omaha starts here. I'm sure that was your touch. But what do you think about it? At least it's a place to call home for the baseball team, right?
Yeah, it is a place to call home, and it's now a facility that the university deserves, and because of people around the state and because of people in legislature, I was able to raise $12 million over the years to put together a facility. But it's not only it's not only for the Lobos, but the state tournaments there. And I think, I coached high school in New Mexico, and we played in some places that were pretty rough, and we're in the playoffs, and that's not deserving. The baseball players in New Mexico needed something nice they could play their playoff games in. And so that was part of my motivation too.
I'm sure that means a lot to you.
It does. New Mexico kids mean a lot to me. I use New Mexico kids a whole bunch.
When you look out at that right field, and I think it says Mountain West Conference Championship, and then it says NCAA tournament appearances, obviously you're 2011, 2012, 2013, and 2016. I think there's another one in there. I might have had that wrong. 2010,
there's
five of them. I'm sorry about that. So 2010, when you see that on the wall, I'm throwing another softball question out to you. What does that mean to you and what you were able to accomplish? And then I'll follow that up with, kind of getting to the NCAA tournament and what that means to you.
Well, I was a New Mexico high school baseball player, and we played football, and we got a Blazers, and we got on a really nice charter bus, and we played football game. And the basketball team did too. Baseball team did. It was sack lunches and a yellow dog. And I felt like we shouldn't be second children. We shouldn't be the orphans in the group. And I really wanted to prove that New Mexico kids could play. So at College of the Southwest, we were 21 we were in the top 25. We were 21st in the country, and with New Mexico kids, and then I went to New Mexico Junior College, and same way, and and then I went to UNM, and Josh Walker, Austin House, Mitch Garver, the Mang brothers. I can just go on and on and on of all the New Mexico, Danny Collier, Carson Schneider. I can name New Mexico kids after New Mexico kids and they won. They won. And that's what I wanted to prove. I wanted to prove we have a whole bunch of baseball players in the state that we're not giving them the facilities to nurture their skill level. And Swihart and Bregman proved it, and Mitchell Parker and on the guys who have made it to the big leagues, because I've always known we've had more baseball players in the state that can go on and play in the big leagues than basketball or football.
No, yeah, I agree with you there. I mean, it's kind of crazy when I remember when Mitchell Parker, what made his first start at Dodger Stadium, what last year, 2 years ago, that was wild to me. And then obviously the Bregmans and the Blake Swiharts of the world, and Mitch Garver 2 years ago is at the pinnacle of the sport. Um, that kind of leads into my next question, and I was going to name the guys. I mean, I know they're not New Mexico kids, but guys that played with you at UNM. I mean, Rafael Nada, I think, is a coach for the Brewers in Double A now. He was the catcher. He was a stud at the plate and defensively. Ryan Honeycutt, DJ Peterson. I mean, the list goes on and on. I forgot about Austin House. But you coached many players who went on to play professionally. What qualities did you look for in a player, whether it was a New Mexico kid or elsewhere?
Well, I've had over 200 kids sign pro that played for me. And most of them were, the scouts would say, "Where'd that guy come from?" I go, came from right over there. I never noticed him. Because when I got you to Hobbs, there was nothing to do in Hobbs. We played baseball every day. We lifted weights, we ran, we did everything every day. From the day I had you till the time you went home in the summer. And then you went and played somewhere else. And we developed you. And development's a big deal. But now in college, development's out. There's no development. It's trading players, man. It's free agentry. That's what it is. You can't develop a kid in 1 year. It takes time.
We had switching gear, and you may have heard of her. We had Harper Dunn on, the basketball player. Tall, she's a junior. She's a center from Corona Vaughn outside Roswell.
Yeah, 6 foot. What, 6?
Yeah, 6'6". And she said the other night, she was on with Ed and Nick Nunez. And they do a high school show with us here on this platform. And she had mentioned, I want to go somewhere and I'm going to be there 4 years. When you hear a kid say that, I know it's not baseball. When you hear a kid say that in this day and age, does that shock you or make you happy? How does that make you feel?
It makes me feel like that's an old school approach. And so let me ask you this. And you went to college and if you transferred, what did you lose? Credit hours, right?
Yep.
Well, that's what's going on. What happened to education?
I tell this story all the time, Coach. My dad, I'm more of my mom, and I repeat myself on here. My dad, I got my love of baseball from, and I'm going to bring on Ed Nunez. Oh, I'll give him a second, Coach. I'm going to bring on Ed Nunez here in a second, but I'll tell you this story real quick. My dad was a nerd, and he found himself out in Albuquerque working on his PhD in electrical engineering. I think 2 + 2 is 5. I don't know where that gene went. Hopefully it's in my child. And then my dad liked baseball, but it skipped the generation. And the most important thing in my household, and then my dad wrote a patent. My dad wrote a patent on disability. And because people don't do that, you hire a patent clerk. But the most important thing in my household was education. And I'm a Pius alum. Not that probably did more drinking than anything during those days, but it was the most important thing in my aspect and in my household. And that still resonates with me today. I'm going to bring Ed here, and then I've kind of got a question about the transfer portal, and I'm going to use Luke Wysong as an example. Cleveland high school kid, family's a lineage here. We always have his uncle on. He's great. He basically got his master's degree from UNM, and he's got a year left of eligibility, and he's taken advantage to go to play at University of Arizona for 1 year. Might help him get looked at. Are you fine with that aspect of it, where he's not here 1 year, there 1 year, and somewhere else another year?
Yeah, I don't know about that. I mean, the educational process. I mean, we're doing everything by laptops now, by computers, and the kids don't. I don't even know if you need a building anymore, and I disagree with it. I think I mean, the personal touch is a big deal, and I think we can't lose it in education. And I'm old school, but you go to a hospital and you have a baby on life support, and if you will just stroke that baby's back and give it some attention and love, you see the vital signs pick up. And it's true in people. And I think you need that interpersonal touch in the classroom. I think you need it. And I think you need people to hold our students to a higher level and push them. And that's who I was, and that's who I'll always be.
I know you can't trade out in-person stuff, even though I'm running this company and show from the comfort of my house and having Ed on. Ed, it's Ed Nunez joining us, obviously the voice of Western New Mexico and voice of ProView. Coach, I know you know Ed, and just thought I'd let you guys say hi.
Coach, how are you?
Ed, good to see you, buddy.
It's good to see you too. You know, Coach, following up on that question about the personal touch, you know, I'm older. I graduated from UNM and went to Eastern for 2 years, and I got to tell you a story. Coach Jack Scott, who coached football many years ago at Eastern. So if you're in his class, and I still remember, you know, Coach Scott passed away. I loved him, high energy guy, but I still remember this. I remember talking to, you know, smaller classes, and I remember, you know, talking to somebody in the back there, and I remember he's like, "Hey, Eddie, you got something to say? Tell us all." I mean, he wasn't mean. He just like stopped you in your tracks, like, "Okay, I'm teaching here. Pay attention to what I'm doing, what I'm saying." And Coach was so energetic, right? So full of energy. So I think your point about, and I remember going to class at UNM, you know, and being there at class and getting much more when I was there from the instructors than but there was no online then. And I think your point, and you were always like that, is well taken as far as the human touch. You even mentioned that about a baby in a hospital. There's no substitute for the human touch. And I got to tell you this is just from where I stand, you know, today. Used to be, Coach, and you know this, you'd sign a player and you could expect them to graduate with you, build with you, develop baseball as a baseball player, but as a human being, as a student, as a young man. And I just was with Coach Gary Sanchez now, the track coach, the Hall of Fame track coach at Highland. You Coach, we're picking people for the Highland Hall of Fame. Coach Robertson was there. You know, we mentioned Glenn Russell, Rod Nichols. A policeman came up to Gary Sanchez and said, "Hey, you were my coach at Highland," and, you know, back in 2012. That's the impact. So I think to your point about human touch, that's the impact you've had and the impact you've always had. And I understand things change and evolve. I don't know that they always change and evolve for the better.
No, I'm a New Mexico educator, and, you know, I can start naming off people: Ralph Tasker, Jim Bradley, you know, Coach Holzman. You had a responsibility when you were a coach. First of all, you had to walk the walk. I remember them telling me this: you did your beer drinking in the backyard. You don't go to bars. You don't go do that stuff. You have to walk the walk so the kids see what a man's supposed to be, and that's what you have to do. And I think that's true in college too. And for some reason, it's changed, and we've glorified it. But we're raising young people, and that's the goal: is to raise young people, one, to be good people, two, to be good students, learn to work hard, learn to be committed to a team, learn to take discipline, learn and then learn how to be a champion. All those come together. And I don't know, man. Things have changed. That's why I retired.
You know, I get to see you with pictures with your grandkids online, and you know, my granddaughter. I retired from the city in 2019 and started being the voice of Western New Mexico since then. But you know, it's only home games, and I'll tell you what, that's enough because I cover football, volleyball, men and women's basketball, and softball. If I had to cover road games, I wouldn't be married, and I wouldn't do that. That's too much, you know. But I'm lucky to do what I do. But when I see the pictures of you with your grandkids, I can only imagine where your life is now. You look so happy and able to see. If I don't see my granddaughter for like 4 days out of the week, I'm like empty, man. I got to see her, you know, and be a part of her life. So, you know, you've given quite a bit back to Lobo baseball. When I think of you know, and it came up tonight because we're talking about Glenn Russell. We're talking about Rod Nichols.
I coached
you know. Yes, I remember you. So it made me think about Rich Allday, Vince Capelli, Jim Fregosi. You know, they all had some great programs here. But I you know, and Ryan wrote some great questions out. You led the Lobos from 2008 to 2021, and you know, I did PA a lot out there when you were the head coach. So I got to see a lot of those games up front and personal. But I thought you did a great job in, you know, making sure Santa Ana Star Field was upgraded. the program grew under your leadership, and I think it's still growing under Todd Brown. So, and I know you must miss it, but at the same time, I'm sure you might look back and say, I did my job. That's somebody else's turn now. Would you care to comment on that?
I, a lot of factors. Are you asking about why I retired?
No. Just how you feel now. Like, you put your time in the game, and
yeah. I gave every bit of me, man. I gave it all, and that's I needed to go get to know my grandkids and reunite with my kids, because I'm gone all the time. I need to take my wife on a real vacation, because it's baseball, and how many times they had a problem and I tried to address it, but I still was distracted about recruiting or coaching or raising money so that we could have. I had to raise our operational money every year, and it was just never ending. And all those things were important to me because, one, it was New Mexico and my home state, New Mexico kids, and it was baseball. And I wanted all those things to prove up, to show pride across the state that New Mexico kids can play and win, and they're hard nosed and they're good people, and all those things I believe in. Is why I did it. And I had opportunities to go to other universities throughout the years, and I told them no, because I was committed to a cause and that I believed in.
That's very true. And I remember seeing you out there, and you mentioned commitment, the fundraising, that part there. People don't understand how difficult that is every year, and it doesn't go away. The next year you got a goal, you got to hit a higher goal. And the next year you got to hit a higher goal, and it's a lot of work, man. It's a lot of work. You did a fantastic job with the program. I think it's in great hands now with Coach Brown and growing. But when I thought about all those coaches earlier, it made me think about where Lobo baseball was and where it's at now. Sorry, Ryan, go ahead. I didn't mean to hijack your interview, man.
No. Glad you're able to join, Ed. And I knew this was an interview you wanted to be a part of. Coach, I'm going to ask you now about the
Mexico kids were on our baseball team, and we finished first 8 times out of 14 years. And that's a big deal. Somewhere along the line, those kids showed in 8 out of 14 years. And of those 6 years that we didn't finish first, 3 of them we finished second in the last game. So, and those are New Mexico kids. They can do this thing. They're good at it.
No, I think that says a lot. And like I mentioned to you, when you hear the Mitch Garvers and the
Josh Walker, he might win the New Mexico Open golf tournament. He's playing in that.
That's impressive.
Yeah, he's a winner.
What my next question to you was about the NCAA tournament, and they I don't know when they expanded it. They did the regional. I think it was 2009, 2010. But you always hear when coaches talk about the basketball tournament and what kind of experience it is. And when you get there and it's unlike anything else, translating that over to the baseball tournament, you got to a regional those 5 times. What kind of experience is that like to get a squad there and play for a national championship?
It's pride, for me. It's New Mexico pride for me. It's exciting. At whatever level you're playing for a championship, even if it's high school, there's nothing, comparison steals joy, and Division I is no bigger than junior college or NAI or Division II or high school. You get a bunch of kids together, you push toward a common cause, and you try to win the last game that's possible you can win. And it's exciting. It's the journey. And New Mexico kids are the best, man. They're the best.
Why do you think New Mexico kids have a baseball gene more than other sports?
Because one, we don't have a lot of 6'7" kids walking around town, but
very true.
We got a lot of 5'9", 6'1", and baseball's a game that you can work at. Look at little Alex Bregman. He's not very big. He wasn't very big, and he grinded it out, man. and he worked at it day in and day out. He had a passion for it. And, those are examples. Trevor Rogers from Carlsbad's pitching in the big leagues. Mitchell Parker from I can go on and on and on, because you can take this kid and he has that passion and he can work at it and turn into something. And they're coming. It's all the time. And it's not because of your physical stature. We don't have great big kids in New Mexico. We have 5, maybe 6.
How do you hope your time at UNM is remembered, and what do you think your most significant impact was on the baseball program and the athletic department?
I don't know. You probably have to ask somebody else. I just know that I sometimes I never asked for permission. Sometimes I'd ask for forgiveness because I knew what we needed to do. And then they'd say, hey, how'd you get those $1 million lights? I mean, what lights? Oh yeah, well, guy gave them to us. We put them up. We thought you'd like them. Those kind of, and you just had to be aggressive. You had to be aggressive because it's about us, man. It meant so much to me. It meant so much to me to stand back and look at it. And now that baseball field's complete. It's as good a baseball facility that's in the Mountain West. And I don't even know what's going to happen to the Mountain West. That's another story. But it's as good as anybody's. And I thought we could pass Arizona State and Arizona, but they got new facilities while I was in the midst of building ours. But I wanted that, and I wanted it for those 2 reasons: one for the Lobos, and one for the New Mexico State High School baseball tournament to be there. Think of a kid that plays at, he plays at Logan, and he plays at all those little fields that Logan's plays at, and then he comes and plays on the UNM field with bright lights and big scoreboard, beautiful bleachers, AstroTurf, great dugouts, great speaker system, blah, blah, blah. He thinks he's in Yankee Stadium, and I want him to feel like that.
No, that makes sense. It's the small towns. That makes total sense. And speaking of that, how do you see the future of baseball in New Mexico, and what can be done to grow the sport in the state? It's my jam is 1A college football, then it's the game of baseball. My mom thought she was going to pump out an offensive lineman, and at 38, I'm 5'9", 202. So about 20 years ago in college,
so she's proud of you.
I would hope so. Yeah, I'm not playing. I did not play. I am not what our new football coach is. I did not play offensive line at a Midwest school. But how do you see the future of baseball in New Mexico, and what do you think can be done to grow the game even further?
Well, we got the Connie Mack World Series in Farmington, and that's awesome. I mean, that's a great venue to play in the summer. But I think you could have collegiate baseball in the summertime for our kids to get better, because it's getting hard to get on a team. And Roswell could have a team, Hobbs could have a team, Albuquerque have a couple of teams. One could be in Rio Rancho, one could be at UNM Field. Farmington would have a team, Santa Fe would have a team, and whoever else would want to sponsor a team. And you have host families, and they play and make it like the Cape Cod, because it just grows the game, and it grows the summer ball. And I would like for them to get out and experience that. I wish that, and I think there was some great high school coaching that went on this summer. I mean, this spring. I think the coach at El Dorado, high five to him, man. He did a great job. And the coach at Sandia did a great job. And those guys bucked the system. And the coach at Los Lunas did a great job. The coach at Grants did a great job. The coach at Artesia. There's high school coaches coaching again, and people are helping them coach and turn kids into good players and good people. And sports is important to change the culture in your community back to good people. I bet if you brought a police athletic league in basketball, football, soccer, blah, 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 and those policemen and those sheriffs were coaching teams with all the little kids throughout Albuquerque, it would drop the crime rate.
Ed, I'll throw it over to you.
Coach, you mentioned about UNM and when Logan came or Melrose came to play there, and I got to do PA out there, And when I introduced them, I wanted them to have the feel that you talked about, you know, in the introductions. Those introductions were fun for me, man, because, you know, they get to go out there. I think Melrose a couple years ago tipped a hat, you know, to all the fans. And I had a lot of fun with that, but I wanted them to have that experience that you talked about. This is Yankee Stadium to them. Big field, nicely manicured. So, yeah, that was exciting. I mean, I know I'm up in the booth. I'm not on the field. But to see the excitement of young players getting to play at Santa Ana Star Field, you know, for the first time, and there, see how excited they were. And, you know, I wanted to mention.
Cool.
Oh, you know what? It was for me. I got a big kick out of that. I did. You know, and I get excited when I'm around amateur athletics, man. You know, they're not playing for money. They're just out there for, you know. And I got to cover the Connie Mack. You mentioned Connie Mack a couple years ago with ProView, and the late Chris Eaton was working with Scott Galletti as a color guy. And go ahead. I'm sorry, Coach. Go ahead.
I remember that.
Yeah. Yeah, you might have even come up. I can't remember, but
No, Chris, I was out of town.
okay. Yes, you were supposed to be there. That's right. You know, Chris, I still miss Chris very, very much. He's a great guy. You know, I really got to be friends with him in a very short time. But when you talk about Ebbets Field on Friday and Saturday nights, man, you know, with that kind of atmosphere, the Midland Oilers, I think that's their name, had about 3 pitchers that hit 95, 96, 97. They flew in on a plane. I mean, that's one of the best events I ever got to work. Baseball, basketball, football, whatever, volleyball. That was a lot of fun. So I think, you know, you mentioned that event there. I also wanted to mention, you talked about El Dorado. You're right, did a great job. Mark Hilton at Sandia won a state championship for the first time. Matadors winning for the first time since 1980. I had the great Roger Cordova working with me in the booth, and the field's named, you know, Roger Cordova is one of the best coaches there has ever been in the state. My son, he followed me, got to work with Ron Murphy, and, you know, Coach Murphy's a great knowledge of baseball. So I think we at ProView had a lot of great knowledge there. But I wanted to ask you just one quick question before I turn it back to Ryan. You got me thinking about baseball this spring. It just ended a couple of weeks ago. Your time at New Mexico Junior College. I interviewed Joe Carpenter at Hobbs, and he had a story about you. I don't know if you remember, but you had a lot of great times out there at New Mexico Junior College. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, I was coaching basketball and public relations director at the New Mexico Junior College. I was assistant basketball coach with the great Ron Black, and they started baseball across the street at College of Southwest, and it kind of fumbled. The coach kind of messed it up, and the coach left, and things were happening. They weren't good, and they called me and said, "Hey, you coach baseball?" And I did, and they go, "We would like for you to talk to you." So I went over there and talked to them, and it was a mess. They didn't have grass in the infield. They didn't have a way to travel. They didn't have anything. So I said yes, and that was a challenge. And after I did that for 2 years, and we got into the top 25 teams in the country, and we got beaten in the regional championship by DBU to go to the World Series. The Mexico Junior College president came over and said, "Would you come back over here and start a baseball program?" I said, "You don't have a field." And he goes, "Yeah, you'll fix that." And so I'm a glutton, right? And so I did. And then, you know, after we got to be the number 1 team in the country for 3 years, Paul Krebs called me. We were coming back from the World Series. I came to my office. I didn't have a cell phone. I pushed the answering machine, and it said, "Paul Krebs, call me back." Gave me the number. I didn't know who he was. I called him back, and he goes, "Our president would like for me to interview you for this baseball job." And I said, "Okay." So I came up, and I looked at the facilities, and I looked at the budget, and I went, "Dear God, I don't know if I'm going to do this again. I've already done it twice." And I had already had a job as a salesman in Texas, and it was lucrative, and I turned it down to go coach baseball again. And so I came to New Mexico to do that. So New Mexico Junior College was fun. It was exciting. And it was just a bunch of good old kids that wanted to learn how to play and play all the time and had a passion. And man, they kicked a lot of butt. Those kids were what? And then I ran into the same kind of kids at UNM. They were just a bunch of hungry old kids that nobody really knew. They were hungry to go win, and they did.
Ryan, go ahead. I sort of wanted to ask Coach about those things. Go ahead.
Appreciate that, Ed. And I'm glad you turned down that sales job because well, just being at UNM means a lot, even to me. And I'm going to throw Isaac out there, and my buddy Mike Mottes, who was a manager for Steve Alford. He loved you. I don't know if you can pinpoint him, but yeah, he was like, when I told those guys you were coming on with us tonight, they were pretty pumped up. Are there any players or games that stand out to you as particularly special?
There's a whole bunch. You know, people ask me, who's your favorite player? There's not one. There's a whole bunch of kids that I enjoyed being around. And, you know, which game was the greatest? Well, you know, there was, you know, the national championships or the championships, they're fun. That's what you shoot for. But there's special moments. I'll tell you one that really I still remember when people ask. So I ran baseball camps in the summertime at New Mexico Junior College. And I just love kids, man. I love to give them an opportunity because there's so many of them out there that are just looking for direction. So we're running baseball camp, and this mom comes up to me with a 12-year-old. And kid's got glasses. He's got the glove on the wrong hand, you know. Single mom. She said, my son, and she's a secretary somewhere in town, single mom. And she said, I saved money to come to your camp, and all I want is for my kid to get a hit. He's played Little League for 3 years, and he hasn't hit the ball yet. So we stayed with him after camp got over at noon. We stayed with him and through lunch and 1 o'clock every day, Monday through Thursday. Friday morning, she came back. She was crying. He was running out to the field stretching with the other kids. And she said he hit a home run last night. Those are the things that are cool.
That's a great story. Very quickly before I let you go, because you joined us a lot longer than I probably mentioned on the phone, so I'm sorry about that. But if you're going to get talking and cook, I'm going to let you talk. Just current state of UNM athletics. There's a whole heck of a lot of enthusiasm coming out of that athletic department with the new, as I call it, fresh breath of air. Have you had the pleasure of meeting Fernando Lovo? Have you had the pleasure of meeting Jason Eck? Have you had the pleasure of meeting Eric Olin, the new coaches? And any thoughts on them? And then I'll finish it up with a question about the collective and Kurt Roth, even though, you know, that probably makes some people's blood boil, but Kurt's the man. But yeah, have you had a chance to meet any of the new faces over there, and any thoughts on the future?
Yeah. First of all, kudos to Eddie Nunez. He came in, he parachuted into Fallujah without any weapons. He did a great job of stabilizing things that were a mess and through some difficult times. And it got better. And now you've got another guy is going to get better. You've had back-to-back grand slams. Fernando is a big-time dude. This guy is going to, in a very difficult situation, it's always difficult, he's the man. He's the guy. A great job by the hiring committee. They hired the right guy. I met Eck. I spent some time with Eck. We have mutual friends, and he's a home run. He's got a hard job. He got a really hard job, but he's the right guy, and he's the right guy to get this thing rolling. And that's what needs to happen. Everybody's pushing the rock in the same direction. As far as Eric, I haven't got to meet him, but I know who he is, and I can't wait to meet him. As far as Kurt Roth, this whole Lobo Nation owes him a thank you. Because they were scared of Kurt Roth when he first started. They were scared of the name, image, and likeness. They were scared of this. They weren't sure what it all was. And Kurt could have quit. Kurt could have said, well, never mind, I'm not going to do it. But he didn't. And he stayed after it. And he's worked his tail off. And he's a big difference maker. And Lobo basketball wouldn't have reached where it reached in the last couple of years without Kurt Ruff.
Figured that question was pertinent with the two fundraising, the backgrounds with you and fundraising. So I appreciate you answering that. And I got to get it right this time. 5 NCAA tournament appearances with UNM: 2010, 2011, 2012, 2013, and 2016. He is the former UNM men's baseball coach, and his name is Ray Birmingham. Coach, I cannot thank you enough. I hope he's still there. Can't thank you enough for joining us tonight on a Tuesday night for 45 minutes. It's much appreciated. I've been talking about getting you on for about 2 years now. So thank you. It was a pleasure. And maybe in the future, I'll bug you to come on again.
Always willing to help. You two guys are great people, and I appreciate your positive energy.
I'll let you get back some of your Tuesday night. Appreciate it, Coach.
Thanks, Coach.
Go Lobo.
Adam, sorry, StreamYard is messing up tonight. So special thanks to Mr. Ray Birmingham, Coach Ray Birmingham. Gonna take a quick commercial break. JJ Buck is following us. He's gonna on the other side of the break. I can't talk tonight. My name's Ryan Tamori. Ed Nunez. Ed, I appreciate you hopping on, and then we'll be back with JJ Buck.
time when every dollar counts, Capital Ford in Santa Fe is stepping up and offering employee pricing for everyone. Yes, employee pricing for everyone is now available on new Fords. You pay what Ford employees pay. Employee pricing means save up to $9,000 off MSRP on a new 25 Ford F-150, or save up to $4,800 off, plus 3.9% APR on a new 24 Ford Bronco. From America, for America. We're Capital Ford in Santa Fe.
My name's Ryan Tamori. Welcome back to the Pit Press Live. Our platform that we use is being wonky tonight. Haven't had that issue, so I can't do anything about it. I'm sorry. I'll try to make it the best of work I can. Ed, very quickly, I thought Ray Birmingham was the best. I'm finally happy we have him on. And I was happy that you were able to join for a little bit of that conversation.
Didn't want to hijack it, your interview, but I got to say about Coach Birmingham, a New Mexican through and through. When I used to talk to him back in the day, hey, how you doing, cowboy? He loves New Mexico. You saw that when he said, hey, New Mexico kids are good. We can do it here. He still has a deep love for New Mexico, and it's hard not to embrace that, man, because I love New Mexico. I want coaches around here, and not everyone's going to be a Ray Birmingham that started out in Hobbs, but just a great, as you mentioned, the best Lobo baseball coach they've had for sure. And they've had some good ones. Rich Allday was good. Vince Capelli, Jim Fregosi. So, yeah, I think I'm glad you had him on, too. He's always a real positive guy to talk to.
He's the best. I don't want to make our next guest wait any longer. Let's make sure he's front and center. Oh no, it's going to be bad. I'm sorry, JJ. You're going to be on the small screen. Everybody's going to have to look at my mug. And I am sorry that you have to follow Ray Birmingham, because I know I'm sure you love him just like everybody else. He's the voice of the UNM women's basketball team. You can catch him on weekday mornings with the one, the only Jeff Symbieta, 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. on 95.9, 610 a.m. The Sports Animal. It's the opening drive with Jeff Symbieta and JJ Buck. JJ, how you doing tonight?
Yo, what's up, guys? Definitely a tough act to follow.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry for that. I thought about that and I made you wait a couple extra minutes, so I'm sorry about that.
No worries.
I will jump right into it. Obviously, the voice of the women's basketball team. I'm going to start here and I'm going to list some stats. It's not normally, I choose to ramble when I ask questions. I don't just list stats because I'm not really a numbers guy. Vianney Cumber, she leaves UNM, over 15 points, 5 rebounds, an assist a game. She played in all 32 games this year, 40% from the field and over 35% from three. Her career was solid, consistently improving each season. She played in 112 games, averaged over 10 points a game, 4 rebounds, and assist. Free throw percentage was 86%. 3-point for career was 36, and field goal percentage was just south of 40. How do you replace her?
It's hard because everything that you were just discussing with Ray Birmingham and loving New Mexico, that's Vianney Cumber, an Albuquerque product, played at Sandia High School, commits to Texas Tech, and got a little bit lucky. They fired their coach or had a coaching change. She decides to decommit, come to UNM, and she had an amazing 4 years. And she was an exceptional person on and off the court. And they're cliches, but she was great. Her presence meant so much for this team. I know, senior season didn't end the way they wanted it to, and going out again in the first round of San Diego State. But what she was able to accomplish, also breaking the career 3-point record, overcoming, major knee injuries in high school. Her freshman season was cut short due to a knee injury. She had to have another procedure after that, and she just battled. Man, this is a player that you'd see, after the game on a post-game bus, just knees wrapped up in ice, getting back to her seat, and wake up the next day, be right there. Treatment, practice, never took a day off if she didn't have to. And, I was very lucky that I got to be the voice of Lobos for 4 years with Vianney Cumber. It was a lot of fun.
That is awesome. Ed, I don't know if you have a question about her because, her being from Albuquerque.
Yeah, Jay, resilient, man. You mentioned that. And I think a leader, when you see a player like that, that's a gamer that's hurt, and you see her as an example. Plus, Jay, you've seen this the last 2 years. Coach Bradbury has gone through a lot of transition. You mentioned that, though, a lot of players that had transferred, they weren't all starters. Some of them were role players. He's had to rebuild, and I think keeping her here was real key for that team. A leader, you need leadership on the floor, and I think she provided that. And you mentioned all the things she went through and all the injuries. That's a gamer, man. And sometimes with people like that, believe me, I know, man, there was times I played injured. That was dumb. Are you hurt or are you injured? Is when I coached my question to players. If you're injured, sit down. You're not going to help us, man. If you think you can get by, whatever you have and still give it a go, and you're going to help us, well, let's get going. So I think sometimes a player like that, you have to sometimes get them out of their own way because they're going to be out there no matter what. And I think she epitomized everything you talked about. And Jay, I can't believe it's been 4 years, man, that you've been the voice. 4 years goes real quick. I remember when you tried out, when Joe Barron quit. I remember when Joe Barron and I saw him just about 6 months ago. I saw him at Padilla's, and I hadn't seen Joe in a long time, man. And Joe was a voice for 6-7 years, I think, for a while. So yeah, man, I can't believe it's been 4 years.
Yeah. So Joe Barron was awesome. I was actually producing games when he was the voice of the Lobos on the Sports Animal. So listening to him, and then Josh Ushan was doing it for a couple of years, and then last year I just completed year 5. So
wow,
you just blink. But basketball season's awesome, especially around here, and the support that the women have. The expectations come with that, and it makes it enjoyable to get to cover this team and broadcast the games. The energy at home is incredible, and that people are paying attention when they're on the road.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Go ahead, Ryan.
Talk about the size and athleticism. I'm glad I'm such a journalist still in your text there. What do you know about the new additions in Jesse Joachim, Cassisi Antonio, and Lenore Fichinot? Looks like I'm learning Portuguese.
Right. It's another international roster. They dove into it last year. I think there was 12 total languages spoken throughout the locker room, 7 different countries represented, and it's a good vibe. And, a lot of it is the recruiting battles. So much has changed with name, image, and likeness, and it's already, a challenge when you're going up against the big dogs. But Lobos have had some nice inroads when it comes to international players. And then, 2 players from NIMI, and one of them was a JUCO All-American, and that's going to be, Antonio coming in the guard, and then Najuma, the 6'4" sophomore. So being able to recruit in-state at a fantastic JUCO program, get those players that performed at a high level was exceptional. And then, what they did with this class, I do really like. They have 3 freshmen that they're very high on, 2 in the backcourt, with Layla, a freshman, coming in, and then Tyler Jones, which have an opportunity to, I think, really add some quickness to the backcourt, which is pretty good with Joanna Magalish and Alyssa Hargrove coming back. And then Kaya Foster, 6'2" stretch, could play the 3, could play the 4. So quickness, shooting, they added that. But the biggest thing is going to be inside. We have Calissa Craig, who had a red shirt last year, and all season long, all Coach Bradbury would talk about would be like, that's going to be our best player. That's going to be our best player. And it's one of those things where it was a bummer they didn't have her last year, but this year's roster could be better overall. So she could be a more impactful player this season, starting at the 5. So you got a 6'3" starting center that started her career at Cincinnati, been there, done that. 6'4" backup player. Like, all of a sudden, this team's going to look a lot different than they've looked the last few years.
Mike Bradbury has won a regular season championship. How does he take the next step in 2025-26? It seems like, there was no max exodus from last year. What's that next step in your mind?
I think a big key is, being able to keep like Joanna Magalish, who earned all conference freshman honors. She's a combo guard, is going to play off of the ball, but has that experience really quick off the dribble. Same thing with Nyla Padilla, the experience that she had last year. And then you are able to have this development, which is kind of rare these days, and combining it with the experience you're bringing back. And, the coaches understand it. The development stays the same, but they understand, the expectations don't drop. They remain high even in the transfer portal era. And I think they did a really good job of being able to keep everyone they wanted. They lost some good character players, so that's going to happen. And I think it was one where there wasn't any bitter feelings with the players that left. It was just the reality of your role might not increase. And so you look at like a Ariza Poe, who was a lot of fun as a freshman. I loved her personality. And she actually goes to Val King, former assistant. So she goes over to East Texas A&M. And so you see, it wasn't bitter relationships. It's just name of the game, man. You're going to keep recruiting at a high level, hopefully with the freshmen, definitely hit the transfer portal. But when you look at who's returning, like Destiny Hooks is just a scorer. And I think, with her just learning how to be a professional essentially every day, right? What it takes of showing up, practice, etc. She's a bucket getter. She's coming back. And then when you look at family, right? Jesse Joachim, the sister of Ulda Joachim, commits. And so some of those things you're like, oh, players leaving, is a good atmosphere? And then you're able to retain players that played last season that earned rewards. You got a sister of a player that came in. And oh, by the way, she's 6'2". I'm pretty darn excited about next season.
That's a good thing to hear the voice of the Lady Lobos say that, or the UNO women's basketball team. JJ, I don't even think I made that clear why I invited you on. Obviously, I was going to ask you some women's basketball questions, and I thought, oh well, I'll hit you with anything UNM, and then I might touch on the NBA here at the end. But
I wore my NBA sweater just for you.
No, I appreciate it. And I will get to the New York slander that I hear on Jeff and on the opening drive in the morning. I'm giving you shit there, but anyway, I'm going to ask about the men's team, and I'll let Ed chime in. And I don't remember the last time. Oh my guys, I never like to do this in the middle of interviews, but porn star and boxer Tommy Gunn, UNLV Lady Rebels are still the team to beat. I forgot to ask you about that. San Diego State won the tournament last year, but I mean, Lindy LaRock, we've talked to her twice. She's awesome. Her story. Tommy Gunn, thank you for chiming in on that. I mean, are they still the team to beat in your mind, UNLV?
They are. I think they're going to be a little bit closer to the pack this season, just naturally with graduation and Kiara Jackson, who was in the running for Player of the Year last year. Allison Furz got Wyoming, the center, won it, but I just love the way Kiara Jackson played point guard. She graduates, and they had a couple transfers that left that they were able to keep some of those players the last few years. And McKenna Brackens was a very dynamic player that hit the portal, but of course they're going to be able to land talent. But I think that while they have a really high ceiling, they're going to start a little bit closer to the pack. San Diego State, it's going to be really interesting to watch San Diego State. They were super experienced last season, and they did a ton of recruiting in the Mountain West Conference. I wrote a story about it a couple weeks ago. I forget the final number, but I think it's like 5 or 6 players in the Mountain West Conference transferred to San Diego State. So it's going to be really interesting, the familiarity of all these players, but then going to the Aztecs and just, Colorado State and Boise State are just machines. When you look at what Ryan Williams has done at CSU, been there for, I think, like 18 years now. Gordy Presnell is like pushing over 20 years. So there's just a consistency, and, there's a legit 5, and the Lobos are in that mix that, those top 5 teams, it is a good battle night in and night out, but you can't take away what UNLV has done the last 4 years. And, San Diego State was impressive what they were able to do.
That was a big, when I saw that they had went on run and won the tournament, I was like, if I would have done that, I would have penciled UNLV in. Switching gears to men's basketball, because JJ, I don't think we've had you on. What have you learned? It was probably right in March, I think I had you on. What have you learned about Eric Olin, and have you seen any adjustments to his new role as the men's head basketball coach compared to what Patino is? I know it's a lot, he's only been on the job 2-3 months now, but what have you learned about him?
And I think we see with any of these guys come in, they're open, and then they start doing the interviews, and they start doing the podcast, and they're like, oh, this is a little bit more. But what I like about Eric Olin is it is a different personality, man. You're in San Diego for 20 years. You're going to be a chill dude, and he has that vibe. But that's also, I think, a quiet confidence to him, because there's questions coming in. This is a big time job. Expectations don't change, even though there's 100% coach turnover, 100% roster turnover. And you say, hey, you might not be able to drive a new Ferrari on to the track right away. You might need a couple test laps. The fans' expectations don't change. And I think that the coaching staff understands that. You start to realize that, as he does the interviews, is in town, putting his staff together. And it's the new era of college athletics, just like, we're discussing with the turnover. Well, that changes expectations. It might be year 1, but when you have name, image, and likeness, aka pay to play, when you have a portal where you can pick all these guys that you want on your roster, there's no excuses. There's still high expectations in year one.
What do you know about the team so far? And is there anything specific? Is there anyone specific you're looking to see play come November? I know it's January 3rd, but anybody you're excited about, anybody you know about on this team?
I'm really excited to see how Olin translates the depth into his system, because we know that pressure defense, he wants to create turnovers. They're going to shoot the three. They're going to use the length. I'm really interested to see how he uses the experience, and then if any of the young guys work their way into rotation. I think it's going to be the biggest difference from what Richard Pitino built, which was usually a really good starting five, and then figure out, all right, who that sixth man was. It was Mustafa 1 year, CJ Nolan last year. I think this team legitimately could be 7, 8, 9 deep in the rotation, just with the style of play. And that's what I'm excited to see, is if they can keep that energy up for 40 minutes, put that pressure on opponents when they come into the pit, and then really just the versatility, man. Like, Chole's the easy one, right? He's the guy that you believe can score at all three levels, be a difference maker in this system. But then I'm excited, like Kevin Patton, who was really good at San Diego's freshman season, different role last year at USC. He's looking to prove something at 6'8", and then just the mix and match of the guards. Dayton Albury, it's going to be, a reality check for Lobo fans. I'm Dominant or Jalen House running the show. So it's going to be more of a traditional, all right, let's get things moving. But I think Albury and Luke Hout are fascinating to me. You have a 6'3" guy, then a 6'6" combo guard. So I'm just really intrigued about how the rotation is going to look, and if this depth will pay off playing at home in the pit.
Ed, any questions about UNM men's basketball for JJ?
Yeah, Jay, I think all those points are good, and especially about it's a different game here. My friend lives in San Diego, and he told me that you could go to UC SD games, buy tickets, sit wherever you want, walk down to the floor. So Coach Olin comes here, and I think Ryan and I discussed this. What did they get? 1,500 over there at UCSD. He comes to a press conference where you've got 300 people there. They put the blazer on him. He's seeing these people, woof, 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 everyone's a Lobo. He's probably thinking at first, what the heck did I get myself into, man? He doesn't understand at that time how rabid our fans are. The fan base. You've mentioned that, Jay. You've mentioned sometimes the fan base here, has unrealistic expectations, about where they should be or what they should have done. I've been a fan since 70. I get it. I understand it. That doesn't mean I don't want them to win. I do. But I think he's unassuming, not a big personality. He's not going to be the guy calling Fisk or Duke or Georgetown or Connecticut. He wants a read and react system. They're going to spread the floor. You mentioned that. Shoot threes. Get them to turn the ball over. But now that you mentioned Albury, it's kind of like I'm forgetting sometimes about all the guys they signed, because it runs one in. Sir Marcus Jones just signing his letter of intent the other day. But I think Albury was a very important signing, because you want a guy when the clock's running down, I need a bucket. Go get me one. That's that guy. The speed, the first step. So I think it's going to be a different way of playing. You saw a lot of two-man, a lot of high pick and rolls with Dent and Nelly, and Toppin the year before. Not a lot of back to the basket. You got the guy from the other day, the 22-year-old. We're not sure about the whole eligibility issue there. He doesn't run a lot of back to the basket stuff, man. He doesn't. So it's a different system that he's going to play. And one of the things you said, expectations remain the same. So Lobo fans want a baton pass where they keep going, man. They don't want any hesitation. They want a conference tournament. Then they won the regular season tournament and made the NCAAs. So they want a continuation of that. And there might just be a little hiccup there, because it's a new system. It's a new roster. It's new coaches. It's new players, man. But I think they got the right guy. I really do.
I think this year, too, is going to be fascinating, because you want to prove one last point. This is a Mountain West that provided some great basketball over the last 25 years, and was consistently sending 4+ teams to the tournament the last few seasons. And even with year one, I think Lobos want to prove a point. These games are going to be that much more intense this year. When you're playing San Diego State, you're playing Boise State, you're playing Colorado State, and your kind of last opportunity to prove a point to all the fans, because that's they're taking their ball and going to the Pac-12. And yeah, there's some bitterness. There's going to be some jealousy, but I also think, this year is for the teams that are still staying in the Mountain West Conference. I look at UNLV too, just trying to prove one last point. So that's just another layer to what we're watching conference play.
One last roundup, one last question to that, Jay. I think, people here, they want to see the basketball conference remain competitive. Grand Canyon's coming in, UC Davis. But in football, do you see it now? In basketball, people are going to want UTEP's coming in. They're going to want to see the conference remain strong. They don't want to see a watered-down conference with a one-bid league. They don't want to see that. Most fans don't. But on the other flip side of that, do you see an opportunity for the football team? They're losing all. Do you see an opportunity for UNM football to maybe, rise from the ashes there and build a consistent winning program? You see an opportunity there?
Yeah, for football, and it's something that Jason Eck hasn't shied away from. I remember one of our first conversations, he, pointed out, 2026 is a different landscape. They're, of course, going all in, trying to set the foundation this year, but, he sees it as a bit of an opening. Once, Boise State leaves the conference and you have some programs that, okay, there's a track record, like Northern Illinois is not a pushover, for a group of 5 team. They're coming in. Air Force is consistently, pushing bowl eligibility, but, UNLV, Dan Mullen, they're thinking the same thing. Like that, okay, what they did the last 2 years, they're going to take it up another notch, but there's an opening. And I think that opening even starts this season. If you look at, the win totals, what stands out is Boise State and UNLV, and then everyone else, flirting around that bowl eligibility line. And so I think, if this offense, which I'm very intrigued by, I think it could help this team, whether it was, Danny Gonzalez, Bronco Mendenhall last year, Jason Eck, like they found a way to piece together offensive lines. So I think that they're going to do that again, especially with some of the players that they're returning. And then a stable of 4 running backs, if they can play the time of possession game, hit some big runs, I think there'll be a pesky football team this season in conference play because, man, you just look at the Mountain West on the football side, there's even more unknowns than in recent years. And then, of course, in 2026, man, that's an opportunity, man. It's a different playing field. And you should be expecting the Lobos to start nipping at the heels of, the final few weeks of the season. Could we be talking about them playing a championship game?
That's always the goal. And you mentioned the run game, I think is going to be very important. I think that offensive line is going to be good again. I do. But Jay, I think Devin Dampier, how many games did they win because of him last year? And so the question is the quarterback position. And Jack Lane was hurt during spring. They brought in a quarterback from Connecticut who looks, and I got to give Coach, we asked Ned James a couple weeks ago, and Ned is a good friend of yours, and he has an eye for football talent and football, period. When I talk football, that guy's like, he blows me away. So, Ned, with your eye, what do you think they need? More players, he said. They need, and they signed 10. They signed 10 in the portal, so hopefully they're just going to add more depth. But so I think you're right along the line there about where they could be. The running game, I think, is important. We just don't know about the quarterback. We just don't know. And Dampier gave Lobo fans, he gave me some of my greatest moments watching UNM football since probably Donovan Porter played at that position. And no disrespect to Porter, Devin Dampier was a better player.
Dampier's season last year, just looking at what he did stats-wise, how he kept the Lobos in so many games, whether it was a shootout, a close game, the scores were all over the place last season. Getting the accolades he did at the end of the season, there have been better seasons, of course, record-wise, right, for this team. Going to a bowl game, winning a bowl game. That was the best season by a Lobo quarterback ever.
It's you think about that 07 team with, what is it, Marcus Smith and who's the other wide receiver? Oh God,
Travis Brown.
Travis Brown. He played for the Ravens. Yeah, I knew it once I heard it.
Speed guy, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what they both had over 100 catches. I think it was insane how good that team was. I don't know. Last year, it was the play tilts still to me, and I know I'm going off subject. Is when he did the fake pass like Kobe or Jordan against Arizona, and he kept it and he scored against U of A. I mean, that was that. I can't. That was definitely one of the plays of the year, and it's coming from the UNM football team. It's still a little bit mind blowing to me, and JJ, I can't remember if I asked you this in March. I don't know what I did 10 minutes ago, and I'm hosting the show. But I have to ask you about Jason Eck. It's just, it's been a breath of fresh air. I keep using that. Obviously, with Jeff and his involvements, he's going to be on your show probably every Monday morning. And I'm sure it will be, and you complete the fifth, it will be more upbeat than Bronco Mendenhall. What do you think of him so far? Because he's done more, since March, and then your takeaways. I don't know what you've seen at some practices and spring games.
Yeah, I think, looking at this team in the spring, it's a little hard as quarterback play because I don't know. I think Cole, well over the transfer from UConn has a really good chance to start because I'm expecting this to be like a old school pro style offense. You got that big dude in there running play action, handing the football off, not a lot of RPO. And then you see, all right, this dude's 6'6", 210 pounds. Like, he fits the bill. So I don't really think we saw that aspect of it. But again, the running back position, the offensive line, and then just, as you said, just the positivity, man, build it up. This is a classic college town. And the fans, whether it's Lobo men's basketball, Lobo football, softball, a soccer game that they show up to, they want to feel a part of it. And I think Eck understands that. He embraces it. He is everywhere. He's doing all the things. He's doing promos for EA Sports, talking about being in the game. And I don't know if that's something you'd ever see from Bronco Mendenhall out there. And it's different attitudes, but that openness, even if it doesn't lead to wins, is still what you need here in Albuquerque, representing the University of New Mexico, because there's that buy-in. It's that college town feel. Oh yeah, it's not Michigan or Penn State or whatever. No, that's people want to feel like that, want to be embraced by these programs.
It's very funny you brought up the quarterback room. I'm looking at it. Cole Welliver, I hope I pronounced that right. Pronounced the Portuguese name correct. I'm very proud of myself for that. Yeah, I think he had one pass for completion for 10 yards. But I mean, yeah, you look at that, 6'7", 6'8", 220. He's a big boy. I'm gonna get, I think they're gonna. I don't even think they're gonna run the ball. I think they're gonna try to win, a Super Bowl by playing defense and running the ball. I know what I just said there was an analogy. I guess I don't know if starting here, I think the offensive line is going to be great. That running back room, you already mentioned it, I think is going to be really good. And it's just not locally that people know about Scontre Humphrey. He's a national name if you're a college football fan. Would you say that maybe the weakest link right now is quarterback and wide receiver?
It's the most uncertain. Like, you can look at Jack Lane and been there, done that with the coaching staff, but the big question mark is he's already on a pitch count, wasn't really participating in spring, and that's a huge concern of, you want to save your quarterback's elbow, but you're already talking about saving his elbow, in March. So that's why I look at, they were going to bring in depth anyway, but I think Welliver has a really good opportunity to win that starting job, even not having the same amount of experience as Jack Lane. And it's going to be who can make a big play, because I'm anticipating the wide receivers have to spend a lot of time blocking in this offense. But if they're able to be successful in the run game, play action is something that is proven, man. There's stats at all levels that action of the quarterback faking the football can get defenders to pause for a second. And that's where they're going to really have to make hay in the passing game. But I'm really intrigued, too, when we get to fall camp, to talk to some of the offensive coaches and be able to pick their brain a little bit about really what they want this offense to look like.
And lastly, about UNM football, I think probably, we had Dimitri Johnson on. He probably made the defensive play of the year last year, that pick against Utah State. We hear good things about Jackson Eck. We had him on. He was great to talk to. I know he's recovering from an injury. I don't know. You got a couple of leaders on the linebacking core. The secondary seems to be pretty stable and maybe a veteran group. And I think the highlight is David Murphy from Cleveland. I guess he turned some heads in spring ball. Simple question for you, JJ. Can this defense be an inkling better than it was last year?
Yes. And I think style of play is going to play into that. It's going to happen. Games are going to get away from you, but I'm not expecting, this team to be in a lot of, 50-45 contests, because that's the one thing that, Devin Dampier just could create so many explosive plays going back and forth. So you slow the game down, you try to take some pressure off that defense. So I'm going to really focus too on the defensive line. That's an area that just haven't seen impacts in a while. And I know all defensive schemes are different, whether you're running 3-down linemen, maybe you're not asking guys to rush passer too much, you're asking them to hold up gaps, but I want to see some impact players on the defensive line. And that's what I'll be looking for early. If they can find some difference makers, really set a tone. Because you mentioned, they do have some good experience at the linebacker position. They've had some guys to pop over the last few years. But, man, if they could start getting some plays made at the defensive line, when was that guy that had a game where you're like, wait, your defensive end just had 2.5 sacks? Oh, that guy just, blew up a few plays, the quarterback in the pocket. That's what I would love to see from this team.
It felt like more like watching a cherry jersey chase somebody last year. It was kind of, somebody like Gabe Lopez. I mean, he might, I'm not putting him down, but it may be, and I don't know this for a fact. I'm just saying, maybe not the most talented guy, but he's going to be a veteran on that defensive line. I would hope that, they hit the, I would love to see them hit a quarterback. JJ, lastly, before we go, the NBA Finals, I wanted to get your thoughts. The Pacers are heavy underdogs. I think the Mavericks were pretty big last year. I saw it on Action Network today. I think the Rockets, was it 94 Rockets? We'll bring up and take a big fat dump on the Knicks again. But they were a huge underdogs against the Knicks and obviously 1-7. I opened up the show with that. I will start here. I like this finals because it's random to probably the casual fan when you see the teams in the cities. I think the Thunder have been building towards it. When New York had beaten Boston, I was like, this is Rick Carlisle, and then the Pacers were like 40 and I don't know what the stat was. It was insane. Let's see if I can find it. But they had won so many games from the start of the calendar year. They only lost twice in the postseason. I'll get to my point. I guess I can understand why Vegas odd makers have the Thunder at -750. I am of the belief that this is a series the Pacers can win. I wanted your thoughts, and I'm putting you on the spot with prediction, but how do you see this NBA Finals being played out?
I think the Pacers can absolutely win this series because of their offensive efficiency. And I know the defensive metrics and the play has favored Oklahoma City throughout the postseason and throughout the season. They've been a really good team defensively, but I think that in a track meet, Indiana can keep pace with OKC. I like the Thunder in 6, but tomorrow night, I take the Pacers and I think it's like 9.5 points. I'll take that in game 1. And it's also looking at Indiana, they've been there the entire postseason. They had unbelievable comebacks, which shouldn't have happened, but they completed it, and they were the team that was able to take advantage of other teams' mistakes while making plays down the stretch. They have length in scoring, Pascal Siakam, Tyrese Halliburton, and what I like about this series is, is what you said is one team is just good, was good. That's back-to-back Eastern Conference Finals, and the other team just exploded. Like OKC, you saw, okay, these young guys last year, they got something there, just absolutely exploded. And to me, that's what sport is all about. And I know you mentioned New York, and yeah, there's a ratings aspect to it, and you want to see the Lakers and the Knicks or the Yankees and the Dodgers. That's understandable, but to me, I'm just a fan of sport. Like, if I see two teams playing well, I enjoy that. And I don't know why, I'm a part of the media, right? Talking heads, we get so caught up in, oh, no one's going to like this series because it's not a New York or LA team. Just tell me about why I should care. And I think you should care because there's just exceptional players, man. Like what Indiana did, I love it so much because in sport and fandom right now, we're so caught up in you either win a championship or you suck. And there can't be in between, right? It's like you can't get better. So if you didn't win the championship, you got to fire a coach, and you got to like trade your star player, or immediately go trade for Giannis. Right? There's never in between. Or you got to look at a team like Indiana that built last year, maybe overachieved, and said, you know what, we're not going to panic. We're not going to trade everything for Jimmy Butler or trade everything for Kevin Durant. We're going to run it back, and things broke their way. And where are they? They're in the NBA Finals.
I'm going to ask you this question because it does pertain to this state, and a WAC player of the year in 2016, I think, or maybe I'm wrong in that. But is Pascal Siakam and the New York Knickerbocker Killer. I'm not an X's and O's guy when it comes to anything. But damn, did he kill the Knicks, and how impressed were, I mean, when I watch the Mets, I'm not like, I cared for the first time about like the NBA and the Knicks in a long time, game one. And I wouldn't lie if I said my heart was ripped out. And when that ball shot right up into the air after it bounced on the rim and it went in, I like that split second. I'm not lying. I was in this room by myself watching on this TV. The two words that popped in my head were Reggie Miller. To get off that tangent, Pascal Siakam has played phenomenal, and he's a New Mexico State, alumni, and he helped Marvin Menzies, and they were always in the tournament with New Mexico State and winning the WAC. How impressed with that? We're all dumber now for listening to me talk, but how impressed were you with him? Not only in the playoffs, not only in the Eastern Conference Finals, but the playoffs.
Siakam is a guy that flies under the radar. Yeah, he was in Toronto for all those years. But it's going to happen again. It talks just about markets and visibility. But his offensive game went to another level in that Eastern Conference Final Series, because the Knicks, what they did was they were built, or tried to build themselves to deal with just that. Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, right? Those athletic wings that can score. And so it's like, all right, they got OG. They're going to add Mikal Bridges. All right, they went out and got Karl-Anthony Towns. And it was just about length and athleticism. And then to see the way that, Siakam lit them up, had that 39-point game. Like, Siakam's good. He's making $42 million a year. Like, he's a good player in that league. But he played some offense that I haven't seen from him. Like, he just took it to a different level. And his path is so unique. You're right. He didn't play, I think, his first year at New Mexico State. He's the WAC player of the year, the 27th pick in the first round. And what does he do? He plays in the G League for a season, wins a title with the Raptors G League team, and I believe that was 2017. Then in 2019, becomes the NBA's most improved player and wins an NBA championship. Like, Pascal Siakam's career is phenomenal. What he's doing is excellent. And it also adds to the Lobo-Aggie rivalry, because, the Lobos have had unbelievable players at the next level. Pascal Siakam is going to be, keeps it up. He's 31 years old, has an opportunity to show out once again in the NBA Finals. Like, could be that guy that when we're having these debates back and forth, doing shows in June and July, we're like, is this the best NBA player that played at either of these universities?
That's a valid point. I'm going to throw it over to Ned. I'm going to throw it over to Ed. I got Ned James on the mind, apparently. I'll throw it over to Ed here in a second. But this is the stat I saw, JJ, and I don't know if you saw this. This was the Pacers heading into the NBA Finals. I watched college baseball. I watched college football. I watched the NHL, baseball. The NBA is not high on my totem pole. But the Pacers going into the I think it's got to be game 3. We're 10-2 in the playoffs, 6 straight road playoff wins. This was going into game 3, 44-16 since January 1st. And that's why my mind is boggled that they are as such heavy underdogs. So, Ed, I'll throw it over to you. I'm sorry, JJ, go.
I was saying, to back up your point, the two best records in the NBA over that span were OKC and Indiana. And here they are in the finals.
Oklahoma City's done a really nice job of building their roster. They're bringing in veterans like Caruso. I think Holmgren, we have not even seen him scratch the surface of what he's going to be. He's long, lanky, can block shots, hit threes. He's still, you can tell his body's still underdeveloped. They've got rim protection. Hardenstein comes in and gives them some toughness underneath as well. But I thought the pace that Indiana played with against New York on made baskets, they took advantage of Towns' lack of getting back. Sometimes he's shooting a three. They're already down the court, man. How many easy buckets did they get like that? They played with some great pace. So I think the other point to what you said, people want, we're already saying when Luka came to the Lakers, the league's going to make sure Boston and LA's in the final. That didn't happen. And so, true basketball fans, I'm a true NBA fan. You are too. I'm going to watch. Hey, my Lakers aren't in there, but I like good basketball players, and both these teams have good basketball players. So it should, I think, going to be an intriguing series. But I got to ask you this. You mentioned, these teams, fire your coach. New York Knicks fired Tom Thibodeau. And this is the day after. They asked Jalen Brunson, do you think he's the right guy? He said yes. Obviously, somebody in New York management didn't think so. What was your opinion of that?
I'm not surprised. That's a balance because in sport at the highest level, and now college are seeing it with so much money on the table, there's expectations. And the easiest thing to do, the first thing you can do is change the head coach. Now, I don't necessarily look at that series overall and be like, well, Tom Thibodeau's the reason they lost. But I can also see as a franchise over the last few years, do you feel maybe that he's capped out and a spark could be what this team needs? Now, is it, Michael Malone, who's out there, that Nuggets fired right before the start of playoffs, Taylor Jenkins, who was also let go at Memphis this season, or, Jalen Brunson's dad is on that bench. They slide him over and just go for that dynamic. But that's always the easiest thing to do. Prior the coach and I've talked about, running it back and staying patient. But, in that market, they feel like their window is right now. And it still is. I look at that New York Knicks team, and, yeah, they need to get better off the bench. Every team does that. You look at the depth was a question. My Nuggets, I was watching them, and everyone's questioning the bench. But there's so many of those veteran moves that you can make in the offseason. But I look at that core, and, Jason Tatum's hurt. You're still looking at the Eastern Conference that Pacers are going to be good next year. It's Orlando. It's Detroit. Teams that are going to take a step, but not teams that you're scared of in the playoffs. So if I'm the New York Knicks, I'm feeling like, okay, yeah, this is still our opportunity to get right back to the Eastern Conference Finals.
Yeah, I think you mentioned teams taking a step. Watch out for Houston as well. They're a young team, and I think they're going to be much better next year. I think they're going to be scary. Go ahead, Ryan.
JJ, I appreciate your time tonight. I kept you on a lot longer than I thought, but it's always a pleasure, man. I told you I'd get you on sooner rather than later, so thank you very much. The voice of the UNM women's basketball team, and you can catch him weekday mornings with Jeff Symbieta on the opening drive on 95.9, 610 AM, the Sports Animal. I'm sorry I couldn't put your face on the main screen.
It is okay. JJ. I appreciate you guys. It's always fun to chop it up, and I'm actually going to go prep a show now for tomorrow morning.
Sounds good. Hey, JJ, have a good evening.
Thanks, Jay.
Much pleasure to appreciated JJ Buck there. Wanted his insight. He's one of the, I had mentioned Rick, NBA guy, and JJ, I just had to get his thoughts on the NBA Finals. It's something we normally don't talk about on here, but I thought it was a good idea to do that. Ed, before we go, I wanted to play. I played this at the beginning of the show, and I wanted to play this again now because Dennis Franchione is on a ballot for the College Football Hall of Fame. And once again, this is not a knock on age, but I've seen a lot of UNM football. You've seen more than I have, and it's been a lot of downs. This is when they beat BYU in November of '97, and it pretty much, they won another game. It pretty much put them in the WAC title game. I want you to hear what he says and think about that, because that, you don't resonate UNM with football and just listen to him with what he says.
To remain here in Albuquerque.
Expected to win! Act like we expected to win!
Franchione reminding his players of what he talked about beginning of the week. We expected to win this ball game.
His wife.
It's like they just won the Super Bowl. they went on to the WAC title game, wasn't good against CSU. It was a gloomy day. I remember that. And then they got to the Insight.com Bowl and lost by a touchdown to Arizona. I guess my question to you, Ed, it looks like they had just won the conference. It was a big deal for UNM to beat BYU. I'm sure I'd have to do more research, when the last time they had beaten BYU. A lot of people in the stands. There was no horseshoe, north end zone. You can hear the crowd. You can see the excitement. He's celebrating on the field with his wife, Graham Lee. Was the quarterback, as I mentioned, Pascal Valls, I think was an All-American Sporting News. I believe Winslow Oliver was on that team. When you see that, Ed, your thoughts?
He had some good success here, and it seemed like he was gone in a relatively short time. I remember them beating Utah one time at University Stadium, and when Stoney Case, Winslow Oliver, Gavin Perlman was a wide receiver, Carl Winston, another wideout, and I remember the fans stormed the field. And one of my friends, who's since passed away, went to hide. Was a big guy. He was trying to stop him, and they just ran right by him. So he won some big games here. He had some good players. And I think the thing that sticks out of my mind is when he said, act like we've been here before. Don't act like, act like we expected to win. And we just hope, Ryan, that those days are ahead where, Coach Eck has that program where the stadium is full and they're winning football games. That's, I think, what everybody's hoping for. That's why it's great to have JJ on, because he gives great insight, not only about women's basketball, men's basketball, and then the football program. He does a show every day. So he's talking about it continuously, and he's around at UNM Athletics. So that's what that meant to me. And, I thought I liked Coach Franchione here, but, he had success, and then he was gone. So, but he's on the, you mentioned the College Football Hall of Fame ballot. So good luck to him.
Yeah, no, I found that clip, and I thanked the YouTuber at the beginning of it. I already closed it down. Yeah, I even under Rocky, I don't know. That was quite that was quite a year, and that might be 9-4. I know they didn't win a bowl game, but they got to a conference title game. That might have been I don't know. That probably is one of the best moments in program history. Graham Lee would be somebody I'd love to get on this platform in this show. To the comments, I got to go to my buddy Isaac Avalusea. This is towards Ray Birmingham, 10,000 hours mastery. Question for Ice Baby. Stop, collaborate, and listen. Ice is back with a brand new invention. What are Coach Ray Birmingham's thoughts on New Mexico baseball coach Todd Brown? Not sure if he had something to do with the hire, but curious. Hope you're doing well, Ryan. I hope you are well. I don't know. I didn't ask him that. I'm sorry. John Romero, Coach Birmingham. Pitcher Ken Giles from Albuquerque, Rio Grande made the big show after Fabia JC. What was he?
Yavapai.
Yavapai, yeah. So I apologize. John Romero literally... Mr. Buck, thank you for your dedication in covering Lobo softball as well for many years. I meant to bring that up for JJ, John. I'm sorry about that. Lobo women basketball will eventually have a Pavia on the team per her commitment. Better to have a Pavia help you rather than defeat you, LOL. Hopefully she doesn't piss on the opposition's court. Tommy Gunn, porn star, boxer, as Rocky Balboa once said, I ain't heard no bell. Rocky V, a terrible movie. UNLV Lady Rebels are still the team to beat. Yes, probably right. Tommy Gunn is Grant. Yes, they are. Basketball only because they don't have a football team. JJ needs to study history of UNM and NMSU basketball players. To me, he only rates to his lifespan in terms of all-time great state players. Sports history doesn't start when Mr. Buck was born. I think he's right. I think Pascal Siakam, what he's accomplished, I'd have to do it. I'm the history guy. Ronnie Chavez, Thibodeau's last two stops before the Knicks after being fired have won less games the following 2 seasons after he was fired. So, I'm not happy about it. I was looking forward to next season. Before that game, it was 1980. The Lobos had beaten the Cougs. Did they beat them in 1980?
They did. They
did.
Blitzed the heck out of Jim McMahon here, the Cougars quarterback. Of course.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they 25-22, I believe. And yeah, it was a big win, huge win. But after that, BYU just used to come, stomp them here, man.
I remember 2002. Was it 80? Yeah, they beat them 25-21, and UNM went 4-7, and they beat them in that game. Wow, that's pretty impressive. Joe Morrison was the head coach. And then he had that,
either. Yeah,
the 1982 seed team that went 10-2. That's the team I was thinking about. They lost to BYU 40-12 in Albuquerque, but they won everything else.
Now that game there. I got to tell you this: that I remember that afternoon they were playing BYU, and they're 9-1 or 10-1. Looking, remember there's not 60,000 bowl games like there is now, and this just goes to show you. There's like 25,000 fans at University Stadium for that game, which you would have thought would have been sold out with what was on the line at that time. And that just kind of tells you that UNM football fans are kind of apathetic, man. They are. That's just the way it is. Joe Morrison had a great season that year. I don't know what they averaged at University. They ran the veer. They had a blitz, very good defense. I think Joe Lee Dunn was the defensive coordinator. And they're an exciting team to watch. And again, the attendance meter, even at that time, wasn't 30,000 a game, if I remember right.
This is insane. I'm going off Wikipedia, which is something I don't like to do, but it's a good starting base. 31,000 for BYU. Didn't have 30,000 anymore, and then that was at the Sun Bowl. 19,000 to beat Colorado State, and then they had 23,000 at Hawaii. 22. It's pretty. It's stat 30-some thousand after that. I don't know. It's kind of frustrating to see. Ed, any final thoughts?
No, again, thanks for letting me join with Ray. Every time I used to see him with Coach Birmingham, hey, Cowboy, how you doing? It's always that. A friendly, affable guy, a great baseball coach. But I believe this, in his last story was about that young man, his mother wanting to see him hit. He got more joy out of that than he may have gotten coaching college baseball. He gets joy out of helping people, uplifting them. So not only was he a great coach, a great New Mexican, a guy that loves his state and loved his team. So I think that was a great guest, and it's always great to have a catch up with JJ, man. He's got a lot of knowledge about a lot of different sports. So it's always fun to go back and forth with him. I was just thinking about that when I was on 610 with Mike Adams for 6 years. I've been going back and forth with Jay for years, and I forgot about that. We've talked quite a bit, so it was good to have him on.
No, JJ and I come up the ranks, media in this town, and he's been with Symbieta. I don't know, good goodness, a long time. So I always enjoy having him on. It's special. To what we're promoting tomorrow night, obviously, Together We Howl. We're excited to announce a collaboration with 505 Sports Venture Foundation. It's a summer series. It's a virtual series lineup of live streams and podcasts centered around UNM athletics and the department. Take place most Wednesday nights over the summer, this summer 2025, starting tomorrow night at 6 p.m. The first guest is Lobo football general manager Bo Davidson. Please, if you have any questions, it's for him. So chime in. The series will feature interviews with coaches and student athletes, highlight community involvement, and provide viewers with an inside look at who they are on and off the field, as well as NIL as an essential part of their experience. Topics with Bo will revolve around football scouting and the importance of name, image, likeness. We'll keep you updated on future shows. Kurt will probably hop on. Kurt Roth. Again, it's partnered with 505 Sports Venture Foundation, and the slogan, Stronger Together, Louder Forever. Do you know UNM athletics? Think again. Let me remove that. Pit Press Plus, your all-access pass to the heart and hustle of the University of New Mexico Athletic Department. Monthly or yearly subscription, you'll unlock behind-the-scenes stories you won't find anywhere else. Whether you're a diehard fan, sports junkie, or just here for the spicy locker room gossip, the Pit Press Plus has you covered. Subscribe today. Support local sports journalism. It's my background, man. Support support Jeff and Sean and those guys, Ken, over at the Albuquerque Journal. And remember, real Lobos don't settle for the sidelines. $2 a month, $25 for the entire year. All Lobo, no filter. Go to thepitpressnm.com. Stay in the loop with Lobo Sports. Follow us on our socials, the Pit Press, for exclusive updates, interviews, and behind-the-scenes content. Find us on Instagram, X, Facebook, and we are now on TikTok at the Pit Press. Ed, I want to thank you for joining tonight. I really appreciate it. I am running on fumes. I got like 3 hours of sleep last night. So, Ed, thank you. I don't think a show Thursday night. I'm not going to, I pick and choose. I don't feel going up head to head with game 1 of the NBA Finals is pertinent. So we will be back next week. I don't know if I'm going to go up against game 3 of the NBA Finals next Tuesday. But we will keep you updated on the Together We Howl series. Look out for stuff from our Twitter, our social media, and then obviously 505. So for Ray Birmingham, it was great. I was happy to have him on. JJ Buck, Ed Nunez, Eric Moulton, Jacob Neff, Nick Nunez. This is the Pit Press Plus. Geez, see, that's where I'm tired. This is the Pit Press Live. And again, don't do anything that I would do. We'll talk to you tomorrow night.